Alright everybody, we're taking another little peek at Blaire White's channel, and as it turns out, I didn't even notice this when all this drama was happening. I don't know how, but Blaire White actually gave some input on the Mr. Beast Chris situation. She made a video on this. It got 417,000 views in 3 weeks and 28,000 likes. No clue how many dislikes though. But most of the comments are all transphobic, so it seems like Blaire has basically harbored like nothing but an audience of transphobes at this point. There used to be a point where Blaire had like very wide appeal outside of like the right-wing audience, but at this point it seems like she's really kind of walled herself off, and now she is just a conservative pundit, and that's all she like has an audience for now. So once that abandons her, as more and more of these transphobes decide that no trans person can be allowed to live and no trans person can be tolerated, she's going to start to lose her steam very quickly. I do feel like Blaire White's a name that we're going to be like, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time, by the time the next election comes around. Not the 2024 election, but the 2028 election. I genuinely think by then Blaire White is going to be a name that's going to be like, fuck, I haven't heard that in a while, you know? Anyway, let's start this video. Apparently she decided to give some takes about the Mr. Beast being pro-trans thing, so let's find out.
Hey, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to yet another trans topic that the internet wants me to talk about. And as usual,
it's getting weird.
If you're new here, my name is Blaire White. I do social and political commentary from the perspective of a trans woman who rejects gender ideology and trans activism. So if you're in the mood for something
Basically what she means is she's a pick-me.
niche, go ahead and subscribe. So everyone and their cousins, uncles, hairdressers, best.
She is very open about what grift she is doing, by the way. If you are looking for a trans person who fights against gender ideology, then make sure to hit the sub button, because that's literally all she does. She is a trans person who just is anti-trans. She is the ultimate pick-me.
Friend's dog has been asking me to talk about Chris from Mr. Beast's YouTube channel. Now, why do people want me to talk about Chris? Because Chris has recently set the internet on fire by coming out as transgender and announcing himself to be on hormone replacement therapy. Now, this is a big deal because Mr. Beast is the biggest YouTuber. Mr. Beast has a very family-friendly YouTube channel. Mr. Beast has a very...
By the way, no, like, I like how it's just straight-faced, not a hint of irony. Like, the internet lit on fire because Mr. Beast's friend came out as trans. And this is bad because Mr. Beast is a family-friendly channel. And being pro-trans is inappropriate for kids to see. Just straight up, full-on, pure evil now. I love it. I love how blatantly evil the right has gotten. Makes me far less, I didn't have empathy for these people before. I haven't had empathy for these people for a long time. But it helps me to, feel no doubt about having empathy for these people.
A young audience, and so naturally the internet is going ham. What is that? What does that represent? Why do you guys watch me? So Chris is a massive part of
I ask
Mr.
the
Beast's
same
channel.
thing
He's
every
basically
day.
Mr. Beast's sidekick. Now, I had never watched really Mr. Beast content before, so my first time hearing of Chris was upon him coming out. And for me, it's a lot less about Chris being transgender and a few other issues that have me feeling a little disgusted. I'm not going to just do a video simply about someone coming out as transgender. It's like, hi, it's 2023. That's everyone, right? So Chris's announcement of being on hormone replacement therapy really took the internet by shock for the simple fact that prior, Chris had been known as sort of the all-American, like gun-toting, like meat-eating, like redneck, like just like...
Blaire, do you not literally fit this stereotype, but you're trans? Like, you literally pose with guns, shoot guns, you shit on the woke left. You try to live like a hyper, like, performative, virtue signaling, conservative lifestyle. Like, you know that trans people can still be that way and be trans. Like, you know this. You are very aware of this fact.
Super masculine guy, right? And so it's really an interesting take about how people often project, right? So oftentimes the thing that people are trying so hard to fight against is really representative of something deep inside their psyche that they're trying to ignore or they don't like about themselves. So I always find that really interesting when you see people who are like, I don't know, like constantly talking negatively about gay people and suddenly they're caught, you know what I mean? It's like, wow. It also has really upset people because Chris has a family, specifically a wife and a son, and people are saying that this is incredibly unfair and bad for them. And I have a lot of thoughts about that, by the way.
Oh boy.
Can I just say I'm probably going to go off about that for a while, like a good chunk of this video. Now, any person coming out on a YouTube channel as transgender when the audience is so young, as Mr. Beast's channel typically is, a lot of young kids watch it, was going to cause controversy, right? But it only got worse with things that came out.
Why can't she just explain why it is bad or why it is controversial that kids know trans people exist, or God forbid, a role model they look up to like Mr. Beast be pro-trans? Zan about to get high for this one? You can see how often I'm hitting the weed vape. Like, I feel like you guys should do... Like, there should be an entire YouTube channel dedicated to, like, monitoring my stress levels during certain segments and determining, like, scientifically what segments make me the most stress by seeing how often I hit my weed vape. Like, alright, how high do I need to get for this one?
Post-transition announcement, and those are the things that have me feeling like, let's do a video. And anytime someone is trending on Twitter or a hot topic, you can bet your ass that old tweets are going to resurface, and resurface they did. And these are the things I have the most issue with. One tweet circulating from Chris says, "Nothing gets my knob a cranking like some lolly."
So I'll tell the backstory behind these tweets because, as you guys know, I am the ultimate lolly destroyer. I am just the slayer of lolicons on the lefty debate sphere. So you guys probably, with my reputation, can probably take me at my word on this. But I don't know if Blaire White's going to include the context, even though the context also arguably makes Chris look bad. But I'm going to give it anyway. So here we go. Zan wording. Phrasing. Anyway, basically, back in the 2016-2017 era, there was an artist online who had a very unfortunate amount of good faith and leeway that they were given, despite how blatantly fucked up and disgusting and perverted and deranged their art was. The name of this guy was Shadman. Shadman drew a wide variety of art. He drew a lot of people who did YouTube's profile pictures, a lot of thumbnails for them. He did a lot of commissions for very big YouTubers, and he had a lot of very strong connections to large public figures. And because of this, he basically had like a shield of invincibility around him. Despite the fact that he... Let's just say that if you weren't one of the people who was blatantly trying to make excuses for this guy, it was very obvious that Shadman's a pedophile. Like, there was apparently shit going back years, like years, making it obvious the dude's a fucking pedo, that he was drawing pedo shit. But what ended up happening in late 2017 is Shadman ended up drawing literal lolly porn of like a few famous like underage like girls. I don't know. I think like one of them was Keemstar's daughter and another one was like an actress. And that got a lot of shit. A lot of fucking shit on Shadman, and it was over. That's when a lot of the like the defense, a lot of the like veneer of invincibility this guy had, of uncriticizability this guy had, basically melted away. But before that, he was considered this like edgy, subversive, line-pushing figure. And the funniest part of all of this is that Shadman's aesthetic has always, like, even to those that didn't know he was a pedophile, had always put off lefties. Like, his aesthetic is, like, super evocative of Nazi shit, to say the least. And a lot of people on the left already didn't like him before they found out he was a fucking pedophile. Then on top of that, he's a domestic abuser who's been arrested for it, I believe. But yeah, regardless, back in 2016 to 2017, when that tweet was made, conveniently not shown, and alongside that particular tweet from Chris, unfortunately, Shadman was disgustingly normalized in mainstream, particularly when it came to mainstream YouTubers. And it was like a subversive meme, particularly pushed by conservative figures, funnily enough, to be friendly with pedophiles. Obviously, they're doing it now as well, but how many of you remember Amos Yee? The guy who was just openly admitting he was a pedophile and just, like, was just a proud, open pedophile. but like all the conservative pundits just like gave him a platform and were friendly with him because they thought he was edgy and like controversial. But then he got arrested for it, and they were all like, wait, it was serious? And they pretended like they thought he was joking. It was basically that kind of thing. And obviously you had the people who were knowingly covering for like a pedophile, but you also had the people who were being basically just jumping on the bandwagon of trying to be edgy. And the case of Chris from Mr. Beast, it really does seem like that was just him trying to be edgy. And believe me, I am very harsh with my ascription. Like, I'm very, very harsh and very, very, I have an itchy trigger finger when it comes to my application of the label lolicon. And I would have absolutely dunked on Chris if it turned out Chris was a lolicon. But looking at the actual evidence, it really does seem like Chris was just sort of a shitter who thought that Shadman was like an edgy figure and tweeting shit like that was edgy and funny, especially considering the fact that, and here's the biggest thing, if you work for Mr. Beast, and back in 2017, Mr. Beast was still huge. If you work for Mr. Beast and you yourself were a large YouTuber, I have a feeling if you were actually a pedo, openly admitting it publicly would not be very likely. Like, it happens, to be fair. It has happened. It is not unheard of. But I feel like it's kind of unlikely. But there you go. That's the story behind it. In my personal opinion, I'm pretty sure Chris is not a lolicon. If you have a different like view of it, then I can understand it. This is the one bit of the video that I won't shit on Blaire White or her fans if they genuinely do think Chris is a lolicon. But I have a feeling Blaire White doesn't actually believe that and is just trying to use this as an excuse to shit on someone who is now technically one of the most prominent trans people in existence.
Now, do me a favor, babe. Don't Google lolly. It is cartoon depictions of children, sometimes as young as toddlers.
It's getting weird.
Now, I don't know what kind of demented, busted, crusted, disgusted person is going to admit to enjoying that particular type of content other than like a degenerate. And like, I kind of want to call 911. Second post, that looks good for a 4-year-old. Okay, so.
Replying to Keemstar. Wait, what? Also replying to Keemstar. Also, okay, this could be a screenshot, not from Blaire, to be fair. But also, do you think Keemstar, the guy who is known for falsely accusing people of being pedophiles and destroying their careers, having had Chris reply that to them, this tweet is still up. This tweet still exists. All these tweets are still up, you know, because the profile picture is still there. Nothing's being hidden. These are very, very evidently edgy jokes, especially when replying to Keemstar in 2017. I'm sorry, but there's a reason why the far right and like the conservative like chud sphere online back in 2016 to 2017 was so toxic. They were literally making pedo jokes, and that was supposed to be funny. It was literally just saying the most horrific shit you could possibly think of because it's as a joke, and that's the joke. That is why I fucking hated this era of humor back then so much. Thanks, Zan. Now my parents are awake. Good. Good. Make sure they turn my stream on their TV.
I am someone who enjoys dark humor. Like, I use it all the time. Like, people try to use that against me, right? But to pretend as if that doesn't paint some context, right? To like you saying that you enjoy cartoon.
So in Blaire's mind, if Chris was cis, these tweets wouldn't be a problem because they would evidently be a joke. Okay. Understood. But because Chris is trans, that is like being trans is strike 1, but then tweeting a joke like that is strike 2. So it's more severe than if Chris was cis, because being trans, in Blaire's mind, of course, is already like indicative of like a strike in the you're a weirdo pedo degenerate category.
Images of people that same age. When there's a picture beginning to be painted, it's like that's the issue. People are also really upset about the screenshot from Chris's Snapchat in which he shows his son, who looks really young, like toddler aged, wearing high heels. And people are saying, like, look, dude, it's one thing for you to want to wear women's clothing, women's shoes, that you want to change how you look.
Oh my god, stop this virtue signaling, dude. Oh my god. There's nothing wrong with a child wearing... The kid's gender is not going to be affected by having freedom with what they choose to wear, okay? Like, whether or not the kid was going to be trans or not will not be affected, all right? Let the kid experiment and have fun and wear whatever the fuck the kid wants. The kid's a toddler. There's not even any other kids around to make fun of him. Like, just let the kid have fun. There's nothing wrong happening here. This isn't surgery. This isn't hormones. This isn't hormone blockers. It's a pair of fucking shoes.
And gender bend and whatever. Why does it have to include your child? And I actually have to wholeheartedly agree with that. I just feel like, why is it so often? And for at this point, we've covered so many like trans parents on this show.
Dude, I'm sorry, but like, I'm pretty sure my mom like painted my fingernails once when I was like 4. I distinctly remember that happening once. It was just clear fingernail polish, so it really just made my fingernails like shiny, less like they were just the same. It was clear, just shininess. And I was literally 4 years old, and my mom just did that, and she was like, hey, do you want to see what this is like? And I was like, guess I'd be fine finding out what it's like. And I was just like, it smells bad. Not a big fan of how it feels on my fingers. It kind of has a weird kind of feel in there, and I don't like how it crumbles off. And I never had that applied again. But I don't think that, like, is grooming or, like, force. Or my mom didn't force that on me. I was just a kid, and I was like, oh, I see you put that shit on all the time. I guess I'm fine to find out what it's like. Yeah, sure. Let's find out. I wish she'd just say, don't let kids dress up in heels. That's sexual assault. I do wish she would be honest about it.
Channel. Why is it so often something that all of a sudden, like, their kids are partaking in as well? I'm not saying that he is even claiming his son is trans or whatever, but it's like, at the same time, you're experimenting with like wearing like nail polish and like dressing yourself up and changing your aesthetics. Your son also happens to be in high heels and you're just like taking a picture of it. And we're supposed to believe that also exists in a vacuum, similar to the liking 4-year-olds comment, the lolly comment. And I'm not trying to make any allegations.
Hold on. I'm not trying to make any allegations. So, like I said, by the way, she's actually clarifying they don't exist in a vacuum. The being trans thing is a point in the pedo score category for her.
Of it. And we're supposed to believe that also exists in a vacuum, similar to the liking 4-year-olds comment, the lolly comment. And I'm not trying to make any allegations of abuse about Chris and his son or anything. So don't get me wrong there, but it's just like, it makes you feel uneasy. I don't like it. I've never liked that. Now, Chris has a wife as well as his son. And I really wanted to hone in on this because something that I don't think I've ever really talked about on my channel is how it is my personal belief that transitioning after you decide to have a family, to marry a woman and make a devotion to her as a man, as a husband, and as a father and a male figure to your child/children.
So this is basically the argument that, like, doing what's best for you is selfish and you owe your life and like, no matter, even if it kills you, you owe it to your family to remain the gender you were assigned at birth. Basically the same argument as if, like, a guy finds out, like, in his 30s after he's gotten married and had a kid that he's actually gay. And it's like, the right unironically thinks that man should be forced to stay in that relationship to the end of his days. And that he is actually a bad person if after making that realization, he decides to come out. Because that, even coming out, because that could ruin the relationship. It's wrong to even come out, in their view.
Few things match that level of selfishness in my mind. I've never liked it.
I like how we've built up the narrative, right? We start off with, like, the very, like, I'm very glad she included the screenshot that was a reply to Keemstar, because, guys, I don't know how many of you know anything about Keemstar, but if Chris had actually commented something that was actually sincerely indicative of pedophilia on Keemstar's post, that drama goblin would have taken advantage of that and hopped on it years ago. Years ago. He would have done it in 2017, or he would have done it in 2018 when Mr. Beast really blew up with the Fortnite community and Tfue and stuff. This is almost certainly a meme. And the fact that one of the bits of evidence that you included was a reply to a Keemstar tweet, and all of these tweets are still up to this day and not being hidden, it lends to the idea that these are jokes made back during a time when these jokes were seen as actually funny by the internet. Just saying the most horrific thing you could think of was the funniest thing you could possibly do. Shock humor was the top of the food chain.
I don't care who's upset about that. I don't care who feels like everyone just has to live their truth and do their own thing. Yeah, everyone should live their truth while not harming others in the process. Chris and the wife have split, so no matter what you have to say, this has torn apart their family. Making the devotion to be a woman's man for the rest of her life is something that, first of all, society doesn't take seriously enough in general, right? People divorce way too easily in general, right? But then to pick up one day and say, actually, I want to be a woman.
Yeah, so like Blaire White, I'm guessing, is jumping onto the conservative anti-divorce thing. So ever since Steven Crowder got divorced by his wife recently and the videos leaked of him abusing her, the right has jumped on the divorce is bad and women should not have the right to divorce their husbands. And that it is a infringement on men's rights that women can divorce them without their permission. Pretty interesting positions they've been adopting lately.
And you have to be a lesbian or we have to get divorced. I'm not saying that's exactly what happened with Chris, but that is usually the narrative in these situations. That is always so gross to me. So your son doesn't get to grow up with a father figure because you, years into his life, decided you don't want to be a father figure anymore? Really? To take away the father?
That's not how it works. You can still be not only has Chris continued to be a parent for their child, but like they've been a better parent for their child according to like the people in the family. But like that's not how it works. There's no like magical switch that goes off that makes it so now a needed parent that was once there now no longer exists because Chris transitioned. Unless you genuinely think that coming out as trans changes your gender to that extent, Blaire, which is actually a pretty pro-trans position to have. So I guess you believe that now Chris is no longer a father. So yeah, you know what? Pro-trans Blaire, I guess. We'll take the dubs where we can get them.
Father figure from a child, from a son in particular, is so gross to me. And you can say that this is me being harsh, you can say it's me being mean, but people of sounder minds are going to say this is me being real. I get that it doesn't mean he's abandoning his child, but to pretend as if he's not taking something away from his child would be incredibly dishonest. I don't care how many people think that this is just Chris being his true self. Okay, well, guess what? His family was under the impression that his true self was a husband and father. To give you some insight into what happens to the wives in these situations.
God, I'm really curious how many... I gotta check the comments really fast. There's gonna be a lot that are transphobic, but I want to see if there were any that were pro-Chris. Mr. Beast's channel basically became Chris's transition journey. I don't understand why every time a trans person comes out, suddenly the whole world revolves around them and their transness. Really? That's the top comment with 1.3 thousand likes? Is a comment saying Mr. Beast's channel has basically become Chris's transition journey? That's literally how deranged these people are. Here's a good comment. Quote unquote, why do you watch me? Because you're a perfect example of a trans person who I can get along with. It's a breath of fresh air in clown world. Oh, God. Remember, though. Always remember where it ends up. These people will only tolerate you for so long. I hate that I can't find the original video online and I have to sip through my own video. I'm not going to be able to get a wholehearted clip of it, but basically, it's a popular conservative figure just telling Blaire White to grow out her beard and just admit that she's a man. Because no amount of being a pick-me will change the fact that she's a degenerate groomer. Like, it's basically just a crazy fascist neo-Nazi lady going mask off and saying the quiet part about Blaire out loud for the right. And Blaire just sits there and takes it. She tries very hard to appeal to her and says, but I'm different. I swear that I am different. No, Lauren Witzke.
I actually have a comment I wanted to read you because on my podcast, I had briefly talked about the Chris situation and this woman left a comment that I found was very insightful. My ex-husband came out as trans when we were about 8 months into our marriage. It devastated me. The pressure I felt to be...
I legit thought maybe she was going to bring up like a study about like there being an epidemic of like forlorn wives because of like men coming out as gay or coming out as trans or something, but instead she brings up an Instagram or a YouTube comment. Hard-hitting journalism, Blaire.
A good wife and be supportive was suffocating. We went to support group meetings that made me feel worse. He used my bisexuality as a weapon against me, saying that it's okay for him to transition because I'm bi and I'll be attracted to him anyways. It doesn't work like that at all.
It's okay for him to transition. Literally trying to find a way to transition and still let the relationship exist, but they're mad that, like, literally just mad about their ex-husband transitioning. Honestly, sounds like their ex-husband dodged a bullet, or I guess now wife, or ex-wife, dodged a bullet. Yeah, bullet dodged, honestly.
It was awful. I felt abandoned by him. He wanted to have kids with me the whole gig. It was awful. I feel bad for Chris's wife and family. And I do too. I really do. I believe that Mr. Beast is between a rock and a hard place here, because if you fire Chris because of all this division and controversy that Chris has created by coming out as trans, you're going to be...
I love that all these videos always end with like the thesis that Mr. Beast wants to fire Chris but can't because of a given set of reasons now. And that, like, behind the scenes, this is a nightmare for Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast wants to fire Chris, but can't. Let's check Mr. Beast's social blade real quick. Woo-wee. Wow-wee. Bro's gaining 1 million subs every few days. Like, every 4th day, dude's gaining 1 million subs. So, roughly, it's 250,000 subs a day he's gaining, on average. 233k sub gain average. He's getting roughly 43 million subs on his channel a day. And if you look at his chart, his monthly views are up in the last month, and his monthly subs are really up in the last month. And I like how these troughs look really bad, but when you look at the troughs, they're like, oh yes, this really bad month where he only gained 3 million subs. Or this really bad month where he only gained 5 or 6 million. But in the last month or two, he's been gaining 10 to 12 million subs a month, it looks like. So yeah, it doesn't really seem like this is affecting him negatively. If anything, it's brought positive attention to his channel.
Looked at as transphobic by half the internet. And to keep Chris, you're going to be alienating kind of half the internet. A lot of people are saying they're boycotting the channel. A lot of parents don't want their kids watching anymore. Half the internet is supporting Chris and saying this is so amazing that you get to live your truth and you get to be yourself and blah, blah, blah.
So glad the right is falling into the do not watch Mr. Beast. Do not let your kids watch Mr. Beast. It is sinful. It is satanic to watch Mr. Beast. It's such a losing point for the right. God, I'm glad they adopted this position. It makes them look so bad.
And the other half is saying that Mr. Beast is pushing the trans agenda on this family-friendly audience, this audience of typically younger people. And I just feel like that's kind of dumb because Mr. Beast doesn't have any control over who comes out as trans and when on the channel, right? It's like he's in a rock and a hard place. He fires Chris, he gets deemed transphobic. He keeps Chris and he alienates half the audience. And Mr. Beast did respond saying,
alienates half the audience. Yeah, that social blade really seemed to be demonstrative there. Remember, they pretend like this is a 50-50 battle. Some of them even pretend like it's a 75-25 battle. That that the transphobes are the quiet majority is what they pretend like. But I'm sorry, Blaire. No matter how much her eyes even look red, like she's been crying. No matter how much you want to lie and pretend like it isn't the case, the vast majority of people are pro-trans or frankly just don't care. It's not going to affect Mr. Beast. He is not ostracized anywhere near half his audience. He seems to have ostracized such a small fraction of his audience, in fact, that it isn't even evident in his, like, literally he outgrew and then overshot beyond any loss in growth that he got from this drama. Like, let's say he lost 10% of his sub base or of his sub count because of this drama. He then gained back 20% of his sub count that month. He lost nothing.
Yeah, this is getting absurd. Chris isn't my nightmare. He's my effing friend and things are fine. All this transphobia is starting to piss me off. And people are pointing out that Mr. Beast looks like visually uncomfortable around Chris. Now that Chris is coming on the channel, like dressing a certain way.
I like how now, now Blaire looks visibly uncomfortable while, like, having to play off the largest YouTuber period, making a blatantly pro-trans statement that is unapologetic and unwavering. She has to find a way to, like, oh, well, actually, if you look at that one video, Mr. Beast looks really uncomfortable in that video with Chris. It actually really seems like their relationship, if you get a body language analyst on it, it really looks like he's uncomfortable.
And you can definitely see it.
Oh my God, Jimmy, look, they drew you. Jimmy, they drew you so well. It looks just like you.
Oh, yes.
Oh my God, it's Jimmy.
How did fan art? This is what we were looking for. Be brave, be honest, be kind. Mr. Beast. That is my tagline.
Hey, nice shirt.
Thanks, dude.
I really do love that they play this like Sunny V2 played this clip in his video as well. They all play this clip in their videos thinking it's like, does Mr. Beast actually look uncomfortable, or does he not just look normal? Because I'll admit I've watched a lot of Mr. Beast and he looks normal here. Like unironically, he looks like he's acting normal here. Maybe a little tired, but I mean, if I was Mr. Beast, I'd probably be tired too.
Nice shirt.
Hey, nice shirt.
Thanks, dude. Nice shirt.
Thanks. Nice shirt.
Nice shoes.
But I have some good news for Mr. Beast from me. Mr. Beast, I know you have a lot of money over there. I know you'd be giving money to just like anyone and everyone for your channel. Throw me some coins.
The audacity of these fucking grifters. I like how she's got her gold. Is that the Gucci pattern? I'm so broke I don't even recognize like logos. That looks like the pattern for the Gucci logo. That's at least gold plated. I can't even tell. I'm so broke I couldn't recognize Gucci if it was shoved in my eye socket. Yeah, I don't even know. Like this is beyond. This is beyond insulting.
Because I'm about to save your channel.
Blaire's lips look like two earthworms that are very plump. Like two very plump earthworms. Like the texture.
Channel. I have the out for you. The way you fire Chris is the tweets. I don't know what other kind of employee at any other company, especially a YouTube company, is going to be able to publicly tweet about a 4-year-old.
I don't know why she doesn't include the Shadman tweet or the Shadman poster tweet, because I don't know if I included this in the context before, but the other tweet that people bring up is another tweet that also makes Chris look bad, where Chris had bought a Shadman poster that's at least from like the pictures posted online that's censored, seems to depict like a girl that's clearly a lolly on there. And Chris bought that. You'd think that would be included. But the reason why I think she didn't include it is because the vast majority of conservative figures back then were defending Shadman and were friends with Shadman and associated with Shadman. And these tweets coincide with the Shadman, like, memes.
Being caught, publicly tweet about enjoying cartoon CP and still keep their job. So there's your out, Mr. Beast. You can fire him for that. So, I don't personally feel that Chris being trans is...
Oh my, I like how this video evolves into, like, Blaire White saying, "Pay me, Mr. Beast. Here's a way that you can fire Chris." Because clearly you actually want to fire Chris.
Is the problem. I feel that Chris messing up his family to be trans is the problem. Chris publicly admitting to enjoying things that should get you the wood chipper is the problem. But as usual, trans is the thing that sets it all off. I love you guys. Make sure you subscribe to this channel.
Oh yeah, for those that don't know, the putting trans people in the wood chipper meme is that is a very interesting frame for my camera to have frozen on. Is my camera just fucked? Just for no reason, out of nowhere. Just as I'm just... Okay, there we go. We're back. Okay. Just the putting trans people and gay people in the wood chipper thing has been a meme on 4chan and a lot of other hate groups for a long time. So usually when you hear a conservative pundit saying, put someone in the wood chipper, it is a dog whistle for putting trans and gay people in the wood chipper and that being their goal. The wood chipper memes have been very popular. That is the far right's like sort of fantasized go-to murder weapon to kill trans people with. They want to like feed gay and trans people into wood chippers alive, is what they like fantasize about in their threads and stuff online. And so that's what that's usually a reference to when they say that. Just for those of you guys who aren't caught up on the far right dog whistles, they're pretty objectively evil. It shouldn't surprise you how horrific they are.